Eli was used to being alone. As a nature photographer, he spent most of his time in the mountains, deep in the forests, or beside wild rivers. He liked the silence of the world when no one else was around. That winter, he planned to spend 2 weeks alone in a small wooden cabin high in the snowy mountains. He wanted to take photos of the snowy trees and frozen lakes, but a powerful snowstorm arrived earlier than expected. Thick snow covered the ground, and strong winds howled outside. Eli's radio picked up the weather warning: severe snowstorm expected, stay inside, roads blocked. He wasn't worried. The cabin had firewood, food, and strong walls. He was ready. That evening, while warming his hands near the fireplace, Eli heard a strange noise. It wasn't the wind or the sound of trees creaking. It was different. It was like a high-pitched humming, almost like a distant engine, but softer. Then it stopped. Eli stood still, listening. After a few minutes, he decided to look outside. He put on his thick coat, gloves, and boots, then opened the door. The wind hit him hard. Snow flew into his face. He walked a few steps out into the darkness, holding a flashlight. The light moved across the white snow, trees, and shadows. Then, he saw something. A dark shape was half buried in the snow, not far from the edge of the forest. Eli ran toward it, thinking it might be an animal, but as he got closer, his heart began to race. It wasn't an animal. It was a person, or something that looked like one. A woman with silver hair, glowing skin, and a strange, tight suit made of material Eli had never seen. She wasn't moving. Eli dropped to his knees. "Hey, can you hear me?" he shouted, shaking her shoulder, gently. Her skin was warm, even though she was lying in the snow. Her eyes slowly opened. They glowed faintly blue. She looked at him, confused, breathing slowly. "You're human," she whispered. Then her eyes closed again. Eli didn't know what to do. He couldn't leave her there. She was alive. And she didn't look like anything from Earth. But she needed help. He carefully lifted her in his arms. She was heavier than she looked, but he managed. Step by step, he carried her back to the cabin. The wind pushed against him, but he didn't stop. Once inside, Eli laid her on the couch near the fire. He took off her boots and brushed the snow from her clothes. Her body was glowing more now. He noticed a small device on her wrist blinking red. It looked damaged. She opened her eyes again. "Where am I?" "You're in my cabin," Eli said, unsure if she would understand. "You fell. You were outside in the snow. I brought you in." She sat up slowly. Her movements were graceful, but strong. She looked around the room with sharp eyes, taking in every detail. Then she looked back at him. "Who are you?" she asked. "I'm Eli. I live here for a while. I take photos of nature." She nodded once. "I am Valara, scout, explorer. I crashed." Eli blinked. "Crashed? From where?" "From space." Eli stared at her. She wasn't joking. Her voice was firm, her eyes serious. "You're not from Earth," he said quietly. "No," she replied, "but I will not harm you. I need rest. My systems are failing. My ship is hidden nearby." Eli nodded, still trying to understand. "Okay, you can stay here. Until you feel better." She tilted her head slightly. "You are not afraid?" "I guess I should be," Eli said. "But you look hurt, and you're talking to me. That's enough for now." Valara leaned back into the couch, breathing slower. She reached up and touched the blinking device on her wrist. It made a small sound, and then turned off. Eli brought her a blanket and a cup of warm water. She stared at the cup like she didn't know what to do with it. "You drink it," he said, showing her. She copied him and took a sip. Then she nodded. "Thank you." The storm outside grew louder. Snow piled up against the windows. Eli checked the fire and added more wood. The room grew warmer. Valara didn't say much after that. She watched him closely as he moved around the cabin. Her eyes didn't miss a thing. Later that night, Eli pulled out a sleeping bag and laid it near the fire. He didn't want to bother her. She looked like she needed real rest. He laid down, covered himself, and turned off the lamp. Just as he was closing his eyes, he heard her voice again. Human. He sat up. Yes? She stood near the bed in the corner of the room, arms crossed. That is a better sleeping surface. Eli looked at the bed, then back at her. I know, he said, but you can take it. I'll sleep here. Valara frowned. I am not asking. There is only one bed. We will share it. Eli froze. He didn't know what to say. Okay? She nodded once. Good. She walked to the bed, pulled back the covers, and lay down on one side, facing the wall. Eli slowly got up and walked over. He lay down on the other side, careful not to move too much. They didn't speak after that. She didn't move. She didn't even breathe like a human. It was almost silent. Eli stared at the ceiling, wide awake, wondering how a normal week in the mountains had turned into this. An alien woman had just told him to share a bed, and he had no idea what would happen next. You do not, she replied. The bed is warm. The fire is low. We sleep together again. It is efficient. Eli walked over slowly and lay down on his side. Valara lay beside him just like before, back to back, silent. After a few minutes, she spoke. Eli. Yeah. Why do you live alone? He thought for a second. I guess I like peace, nature. I feel more myself out here. I understand, Valara said softly. Silence can be powerful. Neither of them spoke again. The fire crackled. The snowstorm raged outside, but inside it was warm. For the second night in a row, a human and an alien, two completely different beings, shared one space, one bed, and something neither of them fully understood yet. Trust. The next morning, Eli woke up to the soft sound of footsteps. Valara was already awake and moving around the cabin. She stood by the window staring out at the thick snow that still covered everything. Her arms were crossed and her eyes were focused, like she was thinking deeply. Eli sat up slowly. Morning, he said, his voice a little rough from sleep. Valara turned her head. You slept more calmly this time. Yeah, he replied, smiling a little. I think I'm getting used to having a roommate. She nodded once, then looked back outside. The storm has weakened. Soon I may be able to reach my ship. Eli stood and walked to the kitchen. That's good news. You still need rest, though. Valara said nothing for a while. She seemed distracted. Something was on her mind. After breakfast, more soup and dried fruit, Eli showed her how to light the firewood properly. She listened carefully, watching his hands. Your methods are simple, she said, but there is something peaceful about them. Eli laughed. That's one way to put it. They sat by the fire again, warming their hands. Outside, snow slowly fell from the trees. It was quiet. Valara glanced at the books on the shelf. May I read one? Sure, Eli said, handing her a book with pictures of animals and short stories about the forest. She opened it and stared at the pages. Her fingers brushed over the drawings. We do not have paper like this. Our knowledge is stored in light crystals. These feel personal. Eli watched her as she turned each page carefully. You're curious about everything. I was trained to observe, but here, I am not just watching. I am feeling. He leaned forward. What do you mean? Valara hesitated. She looked down at the book, then back at Eli. On my planet, we are taught to hide feelings. Emotion is considered a weakness, but here in this small place, I feel safe I feel warm. I feel something I don't fully understand. Eli didn't speak. He let her continue. You brought me inside. You fed me. You listened. And you did not expect anything in return. That is rare where I come from. Eli smiled gently. Well, I guess Earth still has some good people left. She studied him. You do not act like a warrior, yet you are brave. I'm not brave, Eli replied. I was scared when I found you. I still am sometimes, but I guess I just didn't want you to be alone. Valara looked at him quietly. Her expression softened. Later that day, she asked if she could help him with something. Eli was surprised, but he gave her small tasks, organizing firewood, handing him tools while he fixed the broken drawer, even sweeping the floor. She took every task seriously, her movements precise. You don't have to work, Eli said. You're still healing. I want to learn, she replied. Not just about your world, about how you live. As the sun began to set, the clouds cleared slightly and the first rays of orange light shone through the trees. Eli grabbed his camera. Want to come with me? He asked. Valara followed him outside, wrapped in a thick blanket. They stood in the snow, watching the sky change colors. Eli took a photo, then showed it to her. She stared at the screen. You captured it, just like I see it. That's the magic of photography, Eli said. It lets you share what you see, what you feel. She handed the camera back slowly. I want to try. Eli helped her hold the camera properly. Her fingers were unsure at first, but she learned quickly. She took a photo of a snow-covered tree, then another of the sky. This is more than memory, she whispered. It is art. Back in the cabin, they reviewed the photos together. Valara's eyes lit up with every picture. She didn't smile often, but her face was brighter. That night, they ate dinner quietly, listening to soft music on the radio. Valara seemed more relaxed than ever before. She sat closer to the fire, her posture less guarded. Eli noticed the change. You're different now, she looked at him. I am becoming something new. Being here is changing me. How do you feel about that? He asked. She took a long breath. I don't know yet, but I do not fear it. They sat in silence for a while, then Valara said something unexpected. Do you have more music? Eli smiled and played a slow, peaceful song. Valara closed her eyes and leaned back. This is calming, she said. Like waves. After a moment, she added, in my world, we never stop. Always training, always planning, always preparing for Va. That sounds exhausting. It is, she said softly. But here, time slows down, and I can breathe. Later, as they prepared for bed again, Eli hesitated near the sleeping bag. Valara looked at him and said gently, You may join me. If you wish. Eli nodded. Okay. They lay down side by side, no longer awkward. The room was quiet, except for the sound of the wind outside. Valara spoke one last time before sleep. Eli. Yes? Thank you for teaching me your way. It may not be strong like my world expects, but it feels honest. Eli smiled, even though she couldn't see it in the dark. You're welcome. And with that, they drifted off, to sleep. Two lives from different worlds, slowly learning to understand each other in the silence of snow and firelight. The morning sun peeked through the frosted window. Snow still covered everything outside, but the storm had clearly passed. It was quiet. Too quiet. Eli stood outside the cabin, boots deep in the snow, holding his camera to take a photo of the sunrise. Valara stood nearby, watching the forest. Her expression was thoughtful, her eyes scanning the trees carefully. Something didn't feel right. Is it just me? Eli said, lowering the camera. Or does the forest feel Tense? Valara nodded slowly. It's not just you. She turned her wrist device back on. It blinked weakly, still damaged, but it lit up for the first time in days. There's movement, she said. Energy signals nearby. Not natural, not yours. Eli frowned. Like what? Scouts, she said calmly. They followed me. They found my signal. Eli's heart jumped. Wait, people from your planet? No, she said. Enemies. They chased me across systems. They want what I know. He looked toward the woods. Are they dangerous? Yes, she said. They won't hesitate. They may be cloaked, hidden. We must move now. Valara started walking toward the forest, her boots crunching in the snow. Eli followed, not even thinking, just trusting her. Where are we going? He asked. To my ship, she said. If it still functions, it has defense systems. We can protect ourselves. They walked fast through the trees. Valara led the way with steady steps, even though she was still recovering. Her focus was sharp. Now, her peaceful softness replaced by a calm readiness. Eli had never seen her like this before. They reached a thick patch of forest. Valara paused near a strange-looking tree and touched the bark. A soft blue light spread across the snow. A circular door rose from the ground, hidden perfectly before. Inside was her ship, half buried in snow and branches. The outside was sleek, silver, and smooth, shaped like a long arrow. It looked damaged, with cracks along one side. Valara led Eli inside. The ship was cold and dim, but the walls glowed faintly. She tapped her wrist device to the control panel. Lights blinked to life. This is amazing, Eli whispered, looking around. It is old and damaged, but it will still help, Valara said. She moved to a round screen and scanned the area. One drone is approaching from the north. Invisible to your eyes, but I can detect it now. She reached into a storage panel and handed Eli a strange-looking silver ring. Put this on your finger. It will let you see them. Eli obeyed. The moment he wore it, his vision changed slightly. There was a shimmer in the air to the north, something moving fast and low. I see it, he said. Valara tapped more buttons. A soft hum filled the ship. I'm activating the outer defenses. If they get closer, we fight. Wait, Eli said. You're still injured. Let me help. She looked at him. This is not your fight. It is now, he said. You're not alone. Valara blinked once, slowly. Then she nodded. Very well. Suddenly, a flash of light hit the ship's side. The screen flickered. Valara jumped to the controls. They've started attacking. From where? Above the tree line. Eli rushed to the door and peeked outside. He could see small pulses of energy hitting the snow, melted patches forming in circles. Valara stepped beside him and raised her arm. A beam of light shot out from her wrist and struck something mid-air. A drone exploded, throwing sparks across the snow. Nice shot, Eli said, impressed. But then another drone appeared, spinning fast, aiming directly at them. Before they could react, it fired a blast. Eli pushed Valara back and the energy struck the doorframe beside him. He fell, snow dust flying everywhere. Valara stood over him, eyes fierce. She raised both hands this time and shot 2 quick beams. The drone fell in pieces, smoking in the snow. Are you hurt? She asked. Eli groaned. Just winded. She helped him up. Her hands were strong but gentle. More lights blinked on the ship's screen. They're retreating, for now. I think they underestimated us. They returned inside. Eli sat down on one of the metal seats, catching his breath. Valara pressed a few buttons, and the door sealed shut. You saved me, she said after a moment. You saved me too, Eli replied. She looked at him carefully. I have never fought beside another before. Not like this. Not with trust. Eli gave a small laugh. I'm not even trained. I just didn't want you to get hurt. Valara smiled faintly. Still brave. A few minutes passed in silence. Then Valara stood and walked to the main console. "I need to send a message," she said. "My people can find me, but if they come, your planet may be noticed. That's dangerous." Eli leaned forward. "What's the other option?" "I stay hidden. I don't send the signal. I remain here." Eli looked at her. "Would you be okay with that?" She didn't answer at first. Then she said softly, "I am beginning to think. This place may be safer for me than home ever was." Eli watched her. The way her shoulders relaxed, the way her eyes warmed again. The battle was over, but something deeper had changed. That evening, back at the cabin, they sat quietly by the fire. Valara leaned back in her chair, the glow of the flames dancing across her face. Eli made tea and handed her a mug. She took it gently. "I will fix the ship slowly," she said, "but I will not rush to leave." Eli smiled. "Good. I was hoping you'd say that." Valara looked at him thoughtful. "You are teaching me strength in a new form, not through power, through peace, through patience." Eli nodded. "Sometimes. Just surviving together is the strongest thing we can do." She reached out and touched the back of his hand. Not as a command, not as an order, but as a choice. The storm was gone. The danger, for now, had passed. But something far more unexpected had taken root between them. Connection, and neither of them wanted it to end. Days passed quietly in the small cabin nestled in the snowy mountains. The storm was long gone, but the cold weather remained. Inside, Eli and Valara settled into a new routine. They worked side by side to fix the damaged ship hidden in the forest. But they also took time to enjoy simple moments in the cabin. Valara was changing. The sharp and serious woman who had arrived was now softer in many ways. She laughed sometimes, though her smile was still rare. She shared stories about her world, her people, and the battles she had faced. But she also asked questions about Earth, about the way people lived, loved, and found peace. Eli enjoyed teaching her. He showed her how to light a fire, how to cook simple meals, and even how to take pictures with his camera. Valara learned quickly and seemed eager to understand this new life. One evening, after a day of work on the ship, they sat together by the fire. The room was warm, and the soft glow of flames made the shadows dance on the wooden walls. Valara looked at Eli quietly. "When I first came here, I was certain I would leave as soon as I could." Eli nodded. "That makes sense. But now," she continued, "I think I want to stay, to learn more, to be more than what I was taught." Eli smiled warmly. "You're not the same person who crashed in the snow." "No," Valara said softly. "And you are not the simple human I thought you were." They laughed together, the sound filling the room like a gentle promise. That night, Valara said something that surprised Eli. "When I first said, 'We will share the bed,' it was a command." Eli remembered that moment clearly. It had shocked him, but now it seemed far away. "But now," she said, "it is a choice." She lay down on the bed beside him, not back to back, but facing him. Eli felt a warmth inside he had never known. For the first time, the room felt more like a home than just a shelter. The days passed, and Valara grew stronger. The ship was slowly repaired, but she did not rush to leave. Instead, she spent time with Eli, learning about the world she had only just discovered. One afternoon, as the sun melted some of the snow, they walked through the forest together. Valara stopped and picked up a small, smooth stone. "In my world," she said, "we do not take time to enjoy simple things like this." Eli smiled. "Here, we learn that sometimes the smallest things are the most important." Valara looked at him, her eyes full of new understanding. You have taught me that strength is not only in fighting. No, Eli said. It's in kindness, in patience, in trust. They walked back to the cabin hand in hand, a simple gesture that said more than words could. As night fell, Valara turned to Eli with a serious look. I want to stay here, she said. With you. For now. Eli's heart beat faster. I want that too. She smiled, the first true open smile he had seen from her. Then this is not just a bed anymore. It is a home. From that night on, the cabin was no longer just a place to survive a storm or hide from enemies. It became a place of hope and new beginnings. Two very different beings from worlds far apart had found a connection that could not be broken, and, in the quiet mountains, where the snow fell softly and the fire burned warm, they shared more than a bed. They shared trust, friendship, and maybe something deeper. The end.